Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, my name is Andrea, Busy Mom in the Magic, and odds are, if you clicked on this video, you probably have a lot of questions about lightning lanes, and you are just simply not alone. I feel like this is one of the most searched things when it comes to planning a Disney World vacation, and everyone is coming into it from a completely different place, from different budgets, different priorities, different ages of the kids, and honestly, it can feel a little overwhelming or a lot overwhelming, and trying to figure out what's actually worth it and how it all works can be a whirlwind of emotions. So let's start super simple. Lightning lanes are basically Disney's paid way to skip the regular standby lines so you can spend less time waiting around and more time actually enjoying your day. You are reserving a return time essentially for a specific ride. And when that time comes, you go through a much shorter line and or a faster line. But where it gets confusing is there's not just one type. There's different options, different pricings, and definitely different strategies out there on the internet. So this is really where people start feeling stuck. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through everything, like step by step, what the different types are, how to book them, how to know if they're even worth it for your family. And I'm going to show you exactly how I plan our trips using the Lightning Lane planning tool that I am giving to you guys for free. So that way you are not stressed and feeling confident when it's your time to book. Let's go ahead and pull up the free Lightning Lane planning tool that I have for you guys. Make sure that you just do this along with me because it's going to make things a little bit easier, especially for me. Like, I'm a visual learner. I do much better whenever I can actually see, and I love a good color code. So that is what I have prepared for you guys. And we're going to do the two sheets together. So the first sheet is going to be your plan. The second one is going to be your cheat sheet. So I've wrote out everything for you. So let's pretend on our planning sheet, we are going to be going to Hollywood Studios on Sunday. So in the green, I have our multi-pass. Let's just stick with the green. We're going to stick with the multi-pass. We're going to little sizzle here. We're going to make sure that you all feel really confident in this before we move on. So on tier 1, we are having the choices in Hollywood Studios between Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. We've got Smuggler's Run, Rock and Roller Coaster, or Slinky Dog. We have to choose one out of tier 1. So what we typically do, we always do Slinky Dog because that one is pretty much the hardest attraction to get. And the way that Disney has organized this is they've put their most popular attractions in your tier 1 attraction. That's why they have like a tier 1 and a tier 2, just a little bit for your understanding. So let's go ahead and write in Slinky Dog into our tier 1. That is going to be our first pick. Then we need to pick 2 attractions for our tier 2 because like I said, we can do 3 attractions. So in the green, the color code in the Hollywood Studios, we have the option for Hollywood Studios to choose Alien Swirling Saucers, The Beauty and the Beast live on stage, Frozen Sing-Along, we've got the Indiana Jones Spectacular, the Star Tours, the Tower of Terror, and Toy Story Mania. In our family, I'll just go ahead and tell you what our favorites are and a little bit of a strategy behind it. So what we typically would do is Tower of Terror and Toy Story Mania. Those attractions get longer lines a lot faster. Those are still very popular attractions. So another thing that you're going to have to think through is height requirements. So there are some parts at the very bottom of things to consider and or some closures. So I would keep in mind of the height requirements. Now, one thing that I absolutely love and Annie has used since she was a baby is our height tool that we use for Disney World. And it's really fun. It hangs up on our wall and it has all of the heights for Annie so she can kind of see where she needs to go next. Right now we are waiting for her to hit the 48 8-inch mark where she can ride a Tron and Rock and Roller Coaster, but Rock and Roller Coaster is down because it's being reimagined right now. But nonetheless, definitely make sure that you're taking into consideration these attractions. So Annie is at the height requirement for Tower of Terror, and Toy Story Mania, there is not a height requirement. So that is what we would choose for our planning. Now, let's go into Monday. Let's say on Monday, we are going to Magic Kingdom. So it's going to be the same concept that we did with Hollywood Studios. We're just going to simply go to our cheat sheet. We're going to go to Magic Kingdom and we're going to choose one ride from the multi-pass attraction. We can choose from Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan's Flight, Space Mountain, Tiana's Bayou. We typically choose Tiana's Bayou because, again, the line gets really, really long. And then with our tier 2s, you have Barnstormer, Dumbo, Buzz, It's a Small World, Tea Party, The Carpets, Winnie the Pooh, Mickey's PhilharMagic, Monsters Inc., Pirates, Tomorrowland Speedway, and the Little Mermaid attraction. With those 2 attractions, there's so many options with that. But again, let me remind you that you're not just going to be stuck to 3 attractions. We're just choosing our first 3, 1 out of tier 1, 2 out of tier 2. So in this case, it kind of just depends on what Annie wants. I would probably put it in her court to choose, but we've got the Barnstormer. That one also has a 32-inch height requirement. And then maybe she would want to do Winnie the Pooh, depending on what ride or what mood she's in. Winnie the Pooh does not have a height requirement. Then we're going to go into Tuesday. We are going to go into Epcot. Now, Epcot is a little bit harder, so let's level up a bit together. Epcot, you have in tier 1, some very popular attractions. You've got Frozen Ever After, you've got Remy's, and you've got Test Track. All 3 make for a very hard decision for my 5-year-old Annie. She loves all 3. Let's bring in a little bit of strategy. So what Annie has been wanting to do lately is get our Test Track attraction, because if you are staying on Disney World property, you can enter the parks 30 minutes early before the public is allowed in. And there are a few perks through strategizing if you are staying on property. And that is going to be one of those strategies that's going to give you a really, really nice perk, especially when you are in Epcot, because Annie, like I said, loves those 3 attractions. So an idea could potentially be rope dropping or early entering, getting into the parks 30 minutes before it opens to the public because you are staying on Disney World property. So maybe you are staying at the Yacht Club, the Beach Club, or you're riding over via the Skyliner and you're going through the International Gateway, which is just simply the backside of Epcot, and you're a little bit closer to Remy's, and you can just scoop-de-scoo right on over and get in line before the public is allowed in. That's an option. That way you can get another. Maybe you want to get on Frozen and you're not interested in Test Track, or maybe Test Track is your 3rd option and you're not really, really excited to get on that. You can early entry and get the 2nd option, because getting that 3rd is not always promised. But again, let's just stay simple. We're going to sizzle right here, because there's so much to unload and I don't want to get too in over our heads, but it's coming. We're going to learn about stacking as well. So that's what I would suggest is Annie, she wanted me to do Test Track and then rope drop Frozen or Remy's. That's going to at least minimally get us 2 attractions out of the tier 1. But we still have to choose our 2 tier 2 attractions at Epcot. So in that option, we have Pixar short film, we have the Figment attraction, Living with the Land, Seas with Nemo, Soarin', and Spaceship Earth and Turtle Talk with Crush. So Annie's choices would probably be Soarin' and Spaceship Earth. Soarin' does have a height requirement. Spaceship Earth does not. that's what she would choose. And that's how we would probably map out the morning and our 3 attractions. Now, let's say that our next day, we're going to Animal Kingdom and we need to choose our first 3 attractions. Now, this is what's going to also be a little bit different is Animal Kingdom does not technically have a tier 1 attraction. They're all just a free-for-all. Like, we're just going to go in it and we're going to get 3 attractions. So we are going to go after potentially Expedition Everest. We've got the Feathered Friends. We have the Festival of the Lion King. We have the Nemo Show and Kilimanjaro Safari, Navi River, and the new Zootopia show. Example, Annie would probably choose Expedition Everest, the Zootopia, and Mommy would possibly get an attraction in there, and that would be Kali River Rapids. Kali River Rapids, Expedition Everest, they do come with height requirements. The zoo show, you do not have a height requirement. So that is our multi-pass. You get to choose 3 attractions just in the scope of multi-pass. That is 1 price point. You get to choose 1 from the tier 1 section. Then you get to choose 2 attractions from the tier 2 attraction. Now, you might be thinking, Andrea has not said a single thing about the really extra, really super popular attractions yet. Well, that's because they don't fall into the multi-pass attractions for that price point. You're going to have to fork out a little bit more money for the single pass attractions. So with Lightning Lanes, under the umbrella of Lightning Lanes, you have the multi-pass and then you have the single pass. The multi-pass is what we just went over. Let's go over the single pass. So again, the cheat sheet. Let's bring up the cheat sheet. A little good color coding like I love. The single pass is now done in blue. So for Magic Kingdom, we went to Magic Kingdom on the first day. We've got the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Tron. Now, the perk of this is that you don't have to choose between the 2. You can get both. So essentially you can go into Magic Kingdom with your 3 attractions from the multi-pass, and then you can get Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Tron. So you can essentially go in with 5 starting attractions in Magic Kingdom. But what you're going to be doing is paying once for the multi-pass, and then you're going to be paying for Tron, and you're going to be paying a separate for your Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So essentially you're paying 3 different points in a transaction for all 5 attractions. So let me repeat it again. Let's put some math together. We've got Seven Dwarfs Mine Train dollars plus Tron dollars plus multi-pass dollars, which equals 5 attractions. Okay. So we cannot allow Annie to do Tron because, again, like I already said, that she is not 48 inches. But what I can do, what is an option, is Tyler, my husband, is actually going on this trip with us. And if you are new here, it's typically my daughter and I that go to Disney World the most. My husband will join us on vacation 2 to 3 times a year, but it's typically just Annie and I. Now, saying that, whenever it's just Annie and I opt out of Tron because there's not another person to be there with Annie. So with Tyler going, I can actually get onto Tron. He can watch Annie. We can ride or swap, etc. And we can go after that. So whenever I am signing up for our Lightning Lanes, I can just opt in for Tron for the 2 of us. And then I don't have to, it's like a check mark whenever you are signing up. I don't have to click Tron for Annie. I can click Seven Dwarfs Mine Train for the 3 of us. So you're not just having to do one holistic, everybody has to do the same attractions. That's not true, especially with the single passes. Again, it's more so like a check mark type of thing whenever you are purchasing the single passes. Now, let's go in to Epcot. Now, for the single pass in Epcot, you have the option, according to the cheat sheet, we have the options of 1, of Guardians. Again, another attraction, but another example of not everybody in our family wants to ride Guardians. Annie and I, we want to ride Guardians. My husband, he gets a little motion sickness and or sometimes attractions like that will give him a headache. So he will opt out. Another thing, we will just check for Annie and I. And my husband doesn't necessarily have to ride that attraction. So in that morning, talking a little bit about the multi-pass and the single pass. For whenever I grab our lightning lanes, I am paying for the transaction of the multi-pass and I'm paying for the transaction of Guardians. So two separate transactions, unlike Magic Kingdom when I had 3 transactions, or not necessarily transactions. I don't want you to think that you're charging your credit cards 3 times, but it's going to be 3 itemized options. We'll say it that way. 3 itemized options in a single transaction if you choose to do it that way. Now, let's go on over to Hollywood Studios. We have Hollywood Studios for the single pass Rise of the Resistance, another attraction that is going to have a height requirement, but it's going to be really, really easy on this day because all 3 of us really do love Rise of the Resistance. Again, we're going to have a price, an itemized price point for our 3 multi-pass. And then we're going to have 1 itemized for Rise of the Resistance, both going into 1 transaction. Let's talk about Animal Kingdom. We have Avatar Flight of Passage. All 3 of us are going to ride it. And we have the 3 attractions that are going to be in the green. And then we have the 1 attraction that is in the blue. And then we're going to have 2 itemized options in a transaction for that day. So again, let's recap before we go on to a little bit more of a strategy. On this planning and budget, let's write it all down. We've got the single passes and we have the multi-pass of the tiers. And also a small little note, make sure that you're paying attention to the very bottom. I know we said you need to pay attention to the height requirements, but you also need to be paying attention to your considerations and your closers. So we have a lot of things going on in Animal Kingdom right now. So Dinosaur Land, Dino USA, we're out, okay? We're done here now. So if you're wanting to ride Dinosaur, he's gone. He's bad gone, okay? He's turning into Indiana Jones now. If you are thinking about going to Magic Kingdom, Buzz is so close to coming back. He's almost back. They were doing a little update. He's almost back, but it is not, as of videoing this day, in the beginning of April, Buzz is not back. We've got Big Thunder Mountain, that roller coaster, not back up yet, okay? These 2 attractions are supposed to come back in 2026. And we also have Rock and Roller Coaster that went down last month. I believe it was on March 1st, 2026, if you're watching this video in the future. And that attraction is being reimagined. So make sure that you're paying attention, no matter when you are watching this video, that you're paying attention to closures and considerations in addition to the height requirements before we go in there and we start booking things up and spending your money. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about pricing because this is usually one of the biggest questions that I get. Lightning lanes are not a flat price. They actually change depending on the day and which park you're going to and how busy it is. So on the busier days, you're going to see higher prices, unfortunately. And on slower days, it's, of course, a little bit more affordable. So for multi-pass, you're paying per person, per park, per day. So if you are a family of 4, you're going to take that price, multiply it by 4. And then for single pass, you're paying per ride, per person. So those bigger rides, like we already talked about, the most popular ones in each park, those are going to be an additional cost if you choose to ride them. You don't have to, but they are pretty good. This part is where I usually plan ahead because I don't love going into a trip not knowing what things are going to cost. I want to have a general idea of what we might spend so I can decide ahead of time what is actually going to be worth it for our family. So I actually mapped this out in my planning sheet. So at the very bottom part of the planning sheet, I can see what it might look like per day and even the whole trip, because it adds up pretty quickly if you're not paying attention. So let me show you exactly where to go inside the app to get a real-time idea of pricing for your trips so you can be prepared for the price point. Now, a little tippity tip, a random tippity tip. If you plan on going to Disney World without downloading the My Disney Experience app, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, real talk, bad idea. Horrible idea. Also, make sure that everybody has a profile made for the My Disney Experience app. Annie has one. She's 5 years old. She's had one forever and a day. Like as soon as I found out that I was pregnant with her, she pretty much had a profile because we're those people. But make sure that everybody has a profile. They don't have to have access to it. Like if they're underage, you can manage all of their stuff. But I'm just saying it makes life a lot easier. But anyway, we're on the My Disney Experience app. So let's go ahead and click on the Lightning Lane passes on the screen. You can go ahead and see we're here together, the Purchase Lightning Lane Multi-Pass. So let's go ahead and click on that guy and pretend that we are about to leave for thy Disney World. Let's say that our first day is going to be April 13th and we plan on going to Hollywood Studios. So here you can see the prices right here for the expectations. So we can look at the prices like 3 weeks out in advance to budget this in for our family to really see if it's going to be worth it or not. So for Hollywood Studios, for the multi-pass, again, this is your 3 attractions, your 1 from your tier 1 and your 2 for your tier 2. It's going to be $32 per guest for this day, for this only one day, okay? The one that we've selected for April 13th. Then, if we want to do Rise of the Resistance, we're going to do the 22. Let's click both of these. So, ideally, 32 plus 22 for the math is going to be $54 per person for this day. So, times that by 3 because our family is just of 3 of us. Then that's what your total is going to be for April 13th. If your family is 6, then you're going to take this and multiply it times 6. If not everybody wants to do the Rise of the Resistance, you don't have to do the Rise of the Resistance. And or if you want to do Rise of the Resistance and you're okay with not doing the multi-pass, you can have the option to do that. But just for the example of finding the prices, budgeting this out to see if it's worth it for our family, this is what we're going over. Now, if we wanted to change the date, let's see if Hollywood Studios is going to be a little bit cheaper another day. So let's go to Hollywood Studios. It looks like it's the same. So pretty general with this. On the weekends, let's see if that's going to change. Hollywood Studios. It's slightly more expensive, like $2, but that is how you will see the price. And again, like I was talking about, you got the check mark. So not everybody wants to do Rise of the Resistance. That's fine. Let's go to an example. Maybe on April 15th, we're going to Magic Kingdom. And on here, you can see to get the multi-pass, that is again, the 3 attractions, 1 from tier 1, 2 from tier 2. It's going to be $37 per person only for April 15th. Now, for the example of my husband and myself are going to be riding Tron. My daughter is not going to be riding Tron, but all 3 of us are going to be riding Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and all 3 of us will have the multi-pass. So this is where I was talking about making sure that you are staying up to date on the height requirements. Luckily, Disney is thoughtful and considers that as well. Like we were talking about the 48-inch. It talks about Seven Dwarfs Mine Train being 38 inches and making sure that you're not purchasing something that your kiddos are not going to be quite tall to ride. So all 3 of us, we're going to do that. If Annie is not riding Tron, we're going to click her off and I can do a separate transaction for that. So what I would do on the 7 days out, we were talking about the perks of staying on property. So Yes, we can get into the park 30 minutes early by staying on property. But another perk for staying on property is that 7 days out, I can get my lightning lane. So essentially, we get first dibs over people that are staying off property. People that are staying off property, they have 3 days out that they can grab it. And that's going to be at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for both. So if you're staying on property, 7 days out, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, staying off property, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 days out. But I can just simply do all three of us right there, the ones that we're going to do all the same things together. I'm going to click those two. I'll go down and click continue. And then this is where I was talking about everybody needs to have a profile, because if we were eligible to get our attractions because we're more than 7 days out, if we were eligible, then I would be able to click myself, Annie, and Tyler. And then I would be able to go back in and get Tron just for myself and Tyler. So essentially on our Magic Kingdom day, there would be 2 transactions, but on our full family attraction, everybody's writing everything. That's going to be 2 itemized underneath 1 transaction. So it's a little bit easier. Like I said, I learn a little bit better visually than I just do listening to somebody. So let's pretend on the 17th, we are going to be going to Animal Kingdom. Remember, that's what I was telling you about, that they don't have a tier 1 and they don't have a tier 2. We're just picking 3 attractions. So, and you can see right here, that's kind of expensive for Animal Kingdom. Anyway, you got Lightning Lane. For Animal Kingdom, you get to choose up to 3 experiences. The single pass experiences are not included. And I love Disney for being so thoughtful in writing the explanations down here. And then it's going to be $25 a person on April 17th. Only 1 day. So the 3 of us, it's going to be $75 just for the multi-pass. And then I will have to add on the $18 per guest. We're all above 44 inches because you have to consider the height requirement. And we will be able to choose the arrival time for this experience. We'll continue. And then we'll choose whoever is eligible to go into the parks. So, any questions? Let's go ahead and take this opportunity, write in the comments any specific questions that you might have up until this point that I can help you guys out on. And I will be in the comments responding back, helping you. Let's just take this time to figure this out together and or download your tools before we move on. Are we good? Perfect. If we are good, go ahead and click the thumbs up button. Let me know that we are good to go to the next section and that you're loving learning about the lightning lanes. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about strategy, because this is where the lightning lanes can either completely change your day or feel like a waste of money, and we don't want that. The way that I approach every single trip is start out with our top priorities. Before our booking window even opens, I already will know what rides matter most to our family and what we're okay with skipping. And that's because we've already talked about it as a family. If you watched my last video, we decided what everybody wants to ride, what maybe isn't a priority, and how we want our day to feel. So when it's time to book, I'm not guessing. I've already asked all the question. I am just executing a plan. And this is where my planning sheet comes in. I have mapped out everything ahead of time. So when that 7 a.m. window opens, I'm not stressed. I'm not scrambling. I already know what exactly I'm going for. The biggest goal with lightning lanes is to book your highest demands first, because those are the ones that are going to run out of a good return, like we were talking about with Slinky Dog. Those things go fast. And then from there, you're building your day around those selections, not trying to force everything into one perfect schedule. And that's really important to understand, because there's not just one right way to use lightning lane. It just depends on how your family loves to do Disney. For example, some families love to rope drop and take advantage of the early entry, get a lot done in the morning, leave in the middle of the day to rest, have some pool time, and then come back later. If that's you, you might want to start booking your lightning lanes a little bit earlier in the day. That way you're ready to come back. And then families prefer a slower morning. Maybe you're sleeping in, getting ready without rushing, and heading into the park later. that's a me. In that case, lightning lanes become really helpful because they allow you to still get a lot done even without that early start. So it's less about doing it the right way and more about using it in a way that fits your specific family's rhythm and style. One thing I do like to personally do is, especially like as a mom, is stack our lightning lanes a little bit later in the day so we can take our time in the morning and not feel rushed, and then take a break if we need to. Like, we're not running around all over the parks. Now, once you're in the park, this is where a lot of people miss out on the extra value because they don't realize how important modifying is. You can go into your lightning lane selections inside the Disney Experience app and modify the times or even the ride without even losing your spot. So instead of canceling it and starting completely over, you're just going to adjust what you already have. And one really important thing to know is how you continue to book throughout the day. So once you scan in to your ride and to your first attraction, once you've tapped into that ride, you can go right back into the My Disney Experience app and grab another attraction. So you're not just limited, like I said, to those first 3 attractions in the multi-pass. You can use them to keep booking more one at a time throughout the entire day. And I'll usually scan in, and then while we're walking to a ride or even standing in line, I am already booking essentially our next one. And I'll also go in and refresh times throughout the day to see if something earlier has popped up, or maybe I didn't get Slinky Dog and it's now popped in, or I try to modify maybe the group, or maybe I've seen somebody, then we want to modify the times and ride together. There's often times that better times pop up because let's be real, when you're at Disney with kids, your day is not always going to go exactly as planned, but because we've already planned ahead, we already know our priorities. We're not trying to fix the chaos in the moment. We're just making small adjustments to the plan that already works. So again, let's talk a little bit more about the stacking. I do want to circle back around with that. Again, I scanned into, let's say, maybe Tiana's Bayou, and that ride I have to scan twice, but let's say I scanned in. Then on the My Disney Experience app, like we went to the lightning lanes thing in the top right corner, I'm going to click that and it's going to have a little pop-up and it's going to say that I can grab another attraction. I'm going to click that. So that's what I was talking about. I can stack my lightning lanes throughout the day. I'm not just boxed in to the 3 attractions. Now I do also want to underline, just because I got the single pass, it literally is single. Like, I'm not going to be able to ride Rise of the Resistance and be able to get another attraction after that one. This one's only talking about the multi-pass attractions that I have scanned in for. And then again, it's going to pop up and say that I can get that attraction. Now that we understand how lightning lanes work and how to use them, let's talk a little bit about a few common mistakes that I see, because these are usually the reason people walk away feeling like Disney was not worth it or the passes. One biggest mistake is waiting too long to book, especially for those high demand rides. Those return times go quickly, so having a plan ahead of time really makes a huge difference. Another one is not modifying your selections throughout the day. A lot of people will just take what they get and leave it. But there's actually a lot of flexibility if you're willing to adjust things as you go throughout the day. Also, trying to overpack your day. Just because you can book a lot doesn't mean you necessarily should, especially with kids. And one of the biggest mistakes is buying lightning lanes without really knowing if they make sense for your family. Lightning lanes can be really amazing. Like, we are a lightning lane family, but they're not always necessary. So let's talk about when they are actually worth it. I find that they're actually worth it if you have a shorter trip and you're traveling during a busy time, definitely, and you want to do those must-do attractions. They can also be really helpful if you're traveling with kids and you're trying to avoid those super long waits. They can just completely drain your day, and Annie just simply would not know what to do. But on the flip side, if you're going during a slower time, you have more flexible days, or you're just okay with going with more of a relaxed pace, you may not need them at all. And that's really the key. It's not about whether lightning lanes are good or they're bad. It's about whether they make sense for you and your family and how you want your day to feel. And also, I do understand and I recognize that they are not cheap. So not necessarily are you going to always be able to afford multi-pass and the single passes for everybody, especially if you have a large family. So this is where the conversations come into play of what your priorities are for your family, what is really, really realistic for our family, and what can we do or should do that makes the most sense for our family. So hopefully this helps simplify lightning lanes for you and made it feel a lot less stressful and overwhelming. And if you want to take this step further, I do have my free lightning lane planning sheet linked below. And if you don't get it to your inbox, check your spam or your junk folder. Sometimes it hides in there. And it's exactly what I use every single trip. That way I am not stressed when it's time to book, and everybody gets what they want within reason. So if you want to see how we actually use lightning lanes in real life with my kiddo, and I share all that inside all of my Disney vlogs, make sure that you are following along, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and we will see you on the next one. Love you guys so much. Bye.
Do you believe in magic?